we'll go through this, and then I want to go through and kind of, if you don't mind, I'd like this to be extremely interactive. Good morning. I'd like it to be extremely interactive, so if you have a question, ask me. This is such a small group, and we have such a small amount of time. I'd rather you ask questions than walk away with, okay, I've seen marketing noise. That's not what I want to do. I want to try to help you with how do we make a decision, how do we get you to the cloud, all right? How many, are you guys virtualized? How many of you are virtualized? Virtualized. What are you currently using for virtualization?
VMware.
VMware? Anybody not using VMware? What are you using?
Oracle virtualization.
So you've got Oracle, okay. All right, what other apps are you running with Oracle, other than Oracle?
No.
Only, okay, all right. How many of you have your back office also into a cloud? All of your payment systems, your Active Directory, all of that stuff? No? Okay. This will be interesting to you. Hopefully this will be interesting to you, because what I'm hoping to be able to show you is how do we get you there? Right now you're currently, let me show you some of the applications. How many of you deal with what they call Internet of Things, where you're responsible for also, and when I say Internet of Things, what I mean are, how many of you are responsible for tracking everybody's cell phone usage? Do you do that? Okay. Some aren't there yet. Okay. You've got things like somebody walks into your facility. Anybody from healthcare here? No? Okay, so healthcare is starting right now within, outside of some of the larger metropolitans have the money to do this. Some of the smaller ones obviously don't yet, but especially if they get funded by some of the companies that are there to help them. You walk into the hospital and you have an app that you can download, right? And that app, if you tell the app where you have to go to, you know, that you have an appointment, it will automatically say you are here, and it will tell you how to get there. That's called doing it with called wayfinding. One of the things that I'm currently working in is a capstone project with a number of colleges, and what we're doing is we're coming together with how does a college handle if there's an emergency? For example, I have a granddaughter who's going to tech. Okay, she's going to tech. Tech had a problem a few years ago, I'm sure everybody knows. How do you notify everybody on how to get to where, right? One of the things that we're doing is we're actually putting together a solution that will allow and we're not doing it just for tech, we're doing it for multiple schools and municipalities as well. How do we make sure that people are safe? How do we notify everybody without encroaching on their business? I don't want somebody knowing where I am at all times, but if I have a problem, I want it to notify me, right? I actually live in Northern Virginia, a place called Loudoun County, which is right by Dulles Airport. I have different things going on, and I have subscribed to different things within the community. So if there is a problem someplace, I get a text about it. Those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping that you guys as application and corporate people basically can say, okay, how else can I use this? What else can I do with it? And that's kind of one of the things that HPE is able to do. We can help you with funding all the things, not funding, but fueling all the things that are part of the Internet of Things, all of your applications, those types of things. And then not just do it, but how do I do it so that it's cost effective? Okay, I don't have $5 million to spend. You know, I only have $300,000 to spend for a year. You can still do all of these things with that kind of money. So some of the things that you need to look at are what are the different apps that we're talking about, and this is what we just said, all right? One of the things that we try to do within HPE is that we have what we call hybrid IT. And what that means is some folks have things, and somebody says, what is hybrid, okay? Hybrid means I have some things that are internal to my company and some things that I've moved up to the cloud. And the two sometimes meet, the two sometimes don't meet. For example, if you have any HIPAA requirements within your organization, obviously you're not allowed to just throw things up to the cloud because you don't want your things up there, right? There are different organizations that have been certified by the federal government to allow them to put HIPAA into the cloud. The HIPAA things are things like your social security number, what kind of sickness you have, what kind of insurance you have, whether or not you've had certain prescriptions. one of the things, and this is really interesting, and it's very, very helpful for some of the remote areas like in West Virginia, that they have a huge opioid problem right now. I'm sure everybody's heard about the problems that they have, right? They are actually tracking where they're starting to, this is a project that HPE is working with, and Oracle is working on it as well, that HPE is working, where they're tracking who is actually filling the prescriptions and who they're being subscribed to. And the reason that that's such a big deal is, okay, you can cross county lines, you can cross state lines. You don't want somebody who is basically has drug-seeking behavior going across county lines and going to a different doctor. So as soon as that person's name or information shows up, immediately the doctor is notified. They've already gotten these pills, they don't get them again. And that'll save, hopefully, lives, but not only that, save money. Because that person could be on the county doles, right? And at that point, he's getting money from two or three places and also getting drugs. That then, instead of using for what he needs, he's turning around and selling them. Okay, he's not taking them, he's selling them. And that's his livelihood. So those are the kinds of things that when you look at it, you go, ooh, this isn't, I need to find a way to control and protect that. And that's part of, I know that's just one tiny little example, but that's part of what we are all trying to do and help everybody with that. But by cross-county, by doing things across county, by doing things across companies, by doing things, for example, if you're in one county, maybe you need to share data with another county, or there's a project that we're working in called Firstnet. Have you guys heard about it? It's a government thing. Okay, so you're going to hear about it in the next 6 months to a year, max, all right? It has been approved by the government, it has been funded by the government, and it is a emergency system that AT&T is going to bring in across the entire United States. And it's a different band. You know how you have 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz on your phone? It's another band that's been provided for by the FCC to the United States, and it is for emergency information that's going to go across. It's called Firstnet. When you guys hear about it, you get it free. So when somebody says something and you talk to your governors, make sure that you guys say, hey, Firstnet is coming, let's make sure that we're part of it. Because the piece that you have to pay for are the handhelds. That's it. The infrastructure and all is going to be provided for you by the government. You just have to know about it and not pay for it when it gets here. All right, so that's one of those things that is, again, that will hopefully help you. It will tie into the systems that you currently have. That's why I was asking kind of what you're using for your virtualization, because what we're trying to do as we build this is make sure that we can tie into as many places as possible. So we've got Hyper-V, we've got Oracle, we've got VMware, because VMware is a partner for it. But just so that you know, those are the kinds of things that we're looking at doing, okay? So these are things, what we're trying to do is help you with getting to where you need to be, all right? And right mix, as you know, when do you guys have the most need for your infrastructure? What do you use yours for example? When's your busy season?
The busy season is probably during the transition time for the university. There's a big exodus and then entry period and all this stuff.
Okay, so yeah, definitely. Schools, oh my God, you totally are super busy. And then all that data that was there, what do you have to do with it?
Well, we keep it.
You have to keep it. How long do you have to keep it for schools?
Well, I mean, it's utility data, so we keep customer information 10+ years.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, yeah. And especially if billing and all of that stuff. With kids, you're chasing after them for a while until they get everything paid and all that stuff. Yeah, definitely. How about the rest of you? What about you?
All year.
All year. You don't have a busy season that things get
It's
okay.
busy all year.
Busy all year. Okay. How do you add things in then? How do you plan?
The list just keeps getting reorganized.
Okay. No, that's important. It's something that I've always been curious about. If you don't have any downtime, how do you do things like maintenance? What do you do with that?
Ours is driven by our other departments within the city and what they request, so our plans are driven by their requests. And theirs are different times of year, so like he said, we're busy all year long.
So seriously though, when do you do a patch upgrade?
We do that stuff quarterly.
Quarterly, okay. So do you have a testing environment?
Yes.
Okay, do you have testing? Who else has testing? Testing? Do you guys have testing? So is your testing the exact same equipment as your live?
No.
Right,
And we actually do ours monthly, but we do the testing this night, next night we do production. As if we really did enough testing, no production work.
yeah.
And that's controlled by someone else.
So I'm asking that for a reason, because that's one of the things that, as you get moving forward, if you're interested and you want us to talk to you, come talk to you. You know, and I know you guys probably don't realize this, one of the reasons I went to work for HP as opposed to others that I had worked for is that they are not money hungry, they just aren't. And I appreciated that, because working for so many other people in the past, if you have a need for something and they know somebody who can help you with it, they'll even bring in POCs and help you figure stuff out. But the reason I'm saying that is one of the biggest things that happens to large companies and large organizations is that they don't have the exact same equipment for testing that they're running production on. And if you don't have that, then there are things that happen, and I know all of you know this, that things break. And you're going, holy guacamole, now what do I do with this? You know what I mean? Or in my case, the language is a little more colorful. Although I have the granddaughter I was talking about that's going to tech when she was 3. My husband and I were driving down the road and we went we were hurrying to get someplace, and we got there and they literally closed the doors within a minute of us having got there. And I said a word, and the 3-year-old in the back seat parroted the word.
Yeah.
Anybody who has kids understands that happens, and you go, son of a sea cook, which is again another one, you know? But yeah, so that kind of thing. So as I was saying, the right mix that we're talking about is constantly changing with you guys. Cloud redefines how we can write things, how quickly we can get things done. Do you guys do in-house development, or do you do mostly COTS right off the shelf?
We do a mixture.
You do,
Yeah,
okay.
we do a mixture.
What kind of development are you working on?
.NET apps.
.NET, what else?
Same way.
Same, okay. So have any of y'all gone to Docker yet? Nobody's gone to Docker?
I've
Okay.
heard it, but we haven't.
You haven't gone there. That's containerized. That's probably 2 or 3 years down the road for y'all, because if you're at .NET, then so what version of Windows are you on?
We're on 7, working to go to 10.
Okay. What are you on for your servers?
Well,
12?
8.
8.
12,
See, we are actually working with somebody right now, a large organization in the federal government, who is still on 3.
We actually have a few 3s that we're getting off of.
Right, and I know you guys know this is the RFP season, right? And they said that one of the things they wrote is that you have to be 2 versions back from current. I said, I'd love them to be 2 versions back from current. Current is 2016, that means they're at 2012. They're at 2003. Oh, I would love to see that. I wouldn't even know how to handle that. But one of the things that's happening is, and I'm sure you realize that, is that hopefully, as applications are getting developed for you that are being put out there, you have an environment where you're doing the development, and then you have your production environment. Things should be changing. You have like what's called waterfall. Do you guys use Agile, or do you use waterfall, or both? Don't. Hybrid, yeah, kind of a hybrid.
Yeah.
It's like, he who yells loudest gets the stuff done quickest. Is that pretty much the squeaky wheel going on in y'all's? Well, so one of the things that happens, and these are all excuses, you guys can read, I'm not going to read them for you. If you want these slides, send me an email, I'll send them to you. One of the things, these are some of the questions that are being answered. So what happens is, what we'd like to do is help you with reining some of that in if you have a problem. If you don't have a problem, don't worry about it. We'll help you with something else. You know what I mean? Let's just get you there. But this gives you statistics on kind of how things are doing, how things are happening out in the world right now. We can enable the placement and management of your workloads. How do you need them? For example, how many of you have heard of hyperconverged? Okay, do you use hyperconverged at all yet? Have you had a chance to? Okay, so hyperconverged is, how many of you remember, I'm sure you remember, 5 or 6 years ago, actually it's longer than that, 2010, the converged systems. Converged systems were large systems where you had the SAN, the storage, and the networking, right? As well as the compute all together in one box, right? You had the V-blocks. Everybody's heard of the V-blocks, right? Okay. You've got some of the flex pods. You've got the Nutanixes out there, right? Nutanix is more of a hyper-converged. Well, HPE has something called an HC380 that allows you in a 2U to have compute, storage, and networking to be able to handle up to 100 VMs in 2U. That's it. It's just a 2 little U thing. Which means that if you've got, do you know how many VMs you have in your environment? No idea? No idea. How many VMs?
There's a lot.
A lot, okay. Okay, so if you've got, how big is your footprint, do you know, in your facility? How many, is it racks, is it a rack, is it multiple racks?
Multiple racks.
Multiple racks,
Multiple racks.
what do we got? Multiple, okay. So, how many of the servers that you have in there are more than 5 years old? A few? A few, okay. That's so normal, it's not funny. It's like, but, so what I'm saying is, and this is something that surprised, I'm working with the Postal Service. And the Postal Service has multiple racks of things, because some of their systems are 5 to 10 years old. And I do mean 10 years old. We moved them into 2U servers. We have 2 racks that moved into half of a rack by being able to consolidate, which means that we can save them money. And we also gave them the ability to have failover, because those 2 racks did not have any redundancy. And I went, oh, you really can't say anything other than, oh, when you walk in there, but how can we help this? So then the other thing that we did, because of some of the technology that we have, was we were able to, Post Office has a sorting system, excuse me, you guys realize your mail comes in and it gets sorted and goes places. Well, there's all those different offices. Those offices need to talk back and forth to each other, right? The same as y'all's offices need to talk back and forth to each other. We found a way to be able to have one office have mission critical things backed up from the main office back and forth, so we set up hub and spoke. And it wasn't extraordinarily expensive. That's one of the things that everybody is worried about, is like, how much money am I going to spend to do this? How do I get this done? The other thing that we did was we put in systems that allowed them to migrate over, keep their stuff running, migrate over, right? You need a plan, let's play the plan. So in my case, let's find out what you need, which is my biggest thing. What do I need? How do I need to handle it? What are all the pieces and parts? And you'll see this when we get to the questions I have. I have 3 pages of questions that I'll send you the email if you want it, that says, here's all the questions you need to ask. And they are realistic questions. Let me see here. This is kind of more how to do it, real-time scalability, very quickly if you have an API. It doesn't sound like some of this is relevant to y'all, so I'm going to go to the pieces that are more relevant. Give me just a minute. It's going to take a second for me to jump there. Good morning. So this is a mix of private and public, you know these, hybrid, multi-cloud. These are very, very large systems. I promise I don't bite, nor do I smell. I took a shower. But hang on 2 seconds. We're going to jump to some questions. So, you guys ever seen something like this when you're trying to decide how to get to where you're going? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. This is a real live, here's how to do it for multiple companies, okay? Gather the detailed information on your current environment. That is a challenge for many of you. Not seriously, you don't own every single app. If you are the manager for it, you are responsible for keeping it up and running. They do not tell you what they're looking at. They don't tell you what they're thinking about. They don't tell you any of that. In order to be able to get to the cloud effectively, you need to talk to them and say, I need to know all the apps you're running. I don't know if this is something that you would be able to get to, but one of the things that you might want to ask them is, can anybody check on our P cards and see if anybody's in AWS? Have you found it? Have you guys seen it? It happens. It happens a lot. You would be amazed to find out how many of the folks that you have within your organization go, I need access to resources that my IT department's not getting them quick enough, let me go find some place to do it, and they go start building stuff. You know, they just do. And then you have to pay for it. Okay? So, getting that information. Review the applications that need to be migrated, and that's seriously what I mean, like what do I need to actually move? Connect the information not only on the application, But how much storage are they truly using? Because you'll find, and this is one of the things that the hyperconverged that I spoke about a couple minutes ago can help you with, and even a converged system can help you with, is you look at it and you say, how much storage are we actually using? If I have 7 servers, each server has a certain amount of storage on it, correct? It's got, say, 100 gigabyte. 100 gigabyte. If you do not have a system that allows you to combine all that storage together, and you've got, say for example, all those systems being virtualized, but unless you have an application that sits on top of the servers that combines all that storage, what are you doing with the storage on each of the servers? Well, what happens to it, do you know? Okay, let me help with that. Let us help with that. We have something called VSA, which allows you to take the storage on all of those servers and present it to your virtualization environment as one storage block, or 2 or 3 storage blocks. But then it also lets you write across 3 or 4 different servers. So for example, if you've got an application that's mission critical, say it's your Exchange. How many of you have Exchange running within your environments? Okay, Exchange can, especially if you don't have control of how people send their emails and what they attach to their email, that can eat up storage quicker than anything you've ever seen. If you've got somebody who sends pictures around and it goes to 7 different people, that means you have 7 copies of that, right? And that 7 copies goes on the storage. If you don't have your storage spread across all of your servers that you're currently running it on, then what happens is that one server that is handling the VMs that are housing your Exchange gets filled up. And then you have to figure out how to move it across. So that's an example of ask the questions. Make sure you know what's running in your environment. Find out who your stakeholders are. Most of you know that already, it sounds like, when you were saying this group says that they need something, this other group says that, you know, those types of things, but get that information. Discuss the cloud plan with whoever is responsible for paying for it. It doesn't have to be a CFO or accounting, it could be you. It could be your responsibility. Here's how much money you get, figure out how to do it. I don't know how many people I've had said, well, I don't really need you to go talk to my CFO, he told me how much money I have. Okay? Because everybody wants to go talk to the C-level. You know, it's kind of y'all's job to take care of this. So they give you an amount of money, so you have to figure that out. Figure out what your POC or pilot plan is going to be. Interview your cloud providers. Begin collecting all those statistics. Figure out, and this is a personal as well as a corporate thing. Sometimes it's not a good idea to go to the cloud. Sometimes you're better off and it's more cost effective to stay internal. And that's what's meant by hybrid IT. Sometimes you'll say, yeah, I can do some development up there, right? But what if I don't have the money, or do I need truly all of that? Yes, I might have a group of people that have 2 or 3 systems. One of the things that we can do with HPE is we have a application that allows you to actually limit the amount of money that can be spent into the cloud. It'll let you track it. It'll let you say, okay, I have this much resources that I'm using here within my organization internally, and the cloud group is doing this, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, say for example, and you can cap it so that you don't have the runaway cost. It's something that the federal government is starting to use, because they have a lot of folks, they have very smart people that work there, you know, lots of young guys, people coming out of school that are going there to learn how to do things. Well, they start to get carried away. And if you've ever had one server, or actually in my case I have a AWS account and I have an Azure account, and I used to pay 15 to 20 cents a month for it. I turned on one of the servers. Okay, one server. How much do you think it's costing me now per month? Just one server. It's not a huge amount of money, but it could be. One server. It uses 2 virtual CPUs. It has 50 gigabits of storage. All right? And there's nothing getting put into it a month. It's just sitting there running. How much do you think? Yes? Close. $17.20 a month, and all it's doing is running. I have nothing going to it. I have no storage coming in and out of it. It's just sitting there. I wanted to see what would happen if I left it alone, if I didn't do anything to it at all. You know what I mean? Just to see. Imagine if I had, and I have another group that I've worked with that have, they wanted to use AWS for their log collection and storage, because it was cheaper, they thought it was gonna be cheaper. Well, they started sending it to something called Glacier, which is a component within AWS that is for long-term storage that you're not gonna access very often, okay? Their bill went from less than $10 a month to close to $1,000 a month. Right, and $1,000 a month doesn't sound like a lot until you start to multiply that, right? Because they started throwing all the logs up there. Instead of buying disks that they could internally keep and decide what to do with and then push it off to tape. It was easier, they thought it was easier, but the problem is all of a sudden it became not very cost effective. So those are kinds of things that when you're making these decisions, kind of think about, okay? And these next couple pages are what I was talking about, that are very detailed, okay? And it's an eye chart, all right? Evaluate your current IT, where are all the apps, list all of them, the systems they run on. And number 3 here is kind of important, and it offends folks sometimes, but it's part of the reason why you make a go, no-go decision. What are the skill sets of your staff, right? How many people can actually help you that are currently working for you? And if you do not have the money to be able to train them, to move to the cloud, to do all these things, then you're wasting your money doing it, right? Because who's gonna run it? Somebody has to run it. And that's the reality of kind of part of what we can do to help, all right? A lot of times, the other thing you can think of, instead of trying to figure all of this out yourselves, is bring somebody in who's done this 2 or 3 times, or 15 or 20 times. I moved personally, me and my crew, and I call my crew, okay? We moved 500 clinics and 70 hospitals into a hybrid environment, okay? We had 8,470 connections. Imagine how many connections that are. There is no way that the hospital, because it was a conglomerate of hospitals that were all moving together, right? They bought, you know how these HMAs were coming out and they brought all these people in. Different people had different skill sets. It took us about 3 months to figure out what everybody knew and what they didn't know. And then we started to do the move. Because with 8,000 connections, and I'm talking about things that go to their PACS systems, so that when you go get scanned, where does that data go? Who stores it? Who's got access to it? When a doctor would order something, a prescription, who was responsible for paying attention and making sure that there was not going to be any interaction, right? All of that data has to go someplace, and when you're combining, consolidating hospitals and things, that's an important part of this. You guys have that exact same type of responsibility, right? It may not be life and death at that moment, but it could be, like in your case, if you're talking about, do I turn off power? But do you know what would happen if you did that? You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. The kinds of things within a community. Do I have enough resources to handle everything that's going to happen? Even things like this convention, you know, who's responsible for all the parts and pieces of this conference, right? How do you determine things like, how much food do I need? How many people of us have come in for this? What do I do with the food? And this is something near and dear to my heart. I used to work on this somewhere else. When you have a conference like this, what do you do with the food that's left? What do you do with it? Do you think about that? No. But do you have a homeless shelter here? Wouldn't that be the perfect place to send it?
They seem to have an issue that it is not boxed up or unopened.
I can tell you the people that live in that shelter truly don't care.
I know, I agree, because we try to get donate.
Give me a box of stuff that, you know, but I know what you're saying, there's health and
Yeah.
safety and all that stuff, but there, depending on what kind of, or is there a church that can handle it?
Right.
Those kinds of things. They'll come in, box it up themselves and take it. But I mean, now I kind of got off track here. But those are the kinds of details that when you're doing your IT, when you're handling your IT, it's not just IT, and a lot of folks don't realize that IT touches everything within your organization. And that's part of what we need, we can help you with, is what are all the parts and pieces, you know? So if you don't mind, and you don't have to give me specifics, what are some of the challenges that you guys have? Let me start on this side, since I started on that side. What kind of challenges do you have right now?
Just trying to move things from internal in-house to the cloud
Okay,
and get the cloud.
getting buy-in for that. Okay, do you have resources internally that already know how to do that and are like chapping at the bit to get to do that?
We're just starting.
Okay. So, one of the things you could think of as you're doing this is making sure that whomever you choose to help you adds training credits as part of the package. That's available. And it's part of what sales does. Okay, add training credits, whatever you need. Ma'am, so what else, what about you? What kind of things do you have that are challenges?
For us, we just have a whole lot of projects going on right now. We've got two big ones coming, one for the tax department, one that deals with like planning and environmental health and all that. So we're trying to find two different solutions for those that'll go together, but the decision of whether or not we'll go with the cloud will be a big factor, so.
Yeah, and then determining how much space you currently have in the environment that you already have and what you have. That's something, for Oracle, remind me what do you guys use, SAP at all, or HANA? Anybody use HANA? Anybody using HANA, SAP HANA? Okay. Remind me to talk to you, there's a tool that's called DPP that we can help you with, that you run on a database, that allows you to save money with licensing, because Oracle's a huge licensing, I mean, huge. But in your case, there are, finding out what you're using. I mean, that's a big part of how can we help you get to where you can, maybe you have enough resources internally that aren't being combined.
Right.
It could be that you've got,
I know we've been doing, I think like 75% of our servers are virtualized.
oh, good, okay.
We've got a refresh cycle. I mean, we're kind of ahead on that, but, we have no Oracle people, so that's not even an option for us when we're going out looking for different types of solutions. It's awesome.
SQL, okay, well, SQL is a huge part of it, but SQL, you can also, especially if you're virtualizing, you can also save on licensing, because if you move to a virtualized environment, you just have to kind of hold your ground and say, this, I'm using virtual CPUs, because otherwise somebody could say, well, how many CPUs do you have on those servers? You know what I mean? For an example, with some of the systems that we used to work with, I had people both from Oracle and Microsoft coming in saying, well, the environment, the converged environment has 100 cores. And they would try to charge me for the 100 cores. And I was like, oh no, not happening. This is how many of them. So then we got to the point that we set up something called affinity, and that you guys can do as well. You probably know this. You can set up the affinity for a certain application on a specific set of servers that then reduces your cost. So that's a thought. How about you guys?
Security for us, we just put in a SIEM appliance from Alien Vault.
Okay.
You know, layer 7 firewall.
What kind of monitoring are you doing on that? So that you know kind of what kind of alerts you're.
Well, we
what kind of
actually
alerts?
just got it in last week, so yeah, we've got some training coming up next month, so hopefully we learn a little about it, but.
So your SIEM system, are you having everything within your environment
Yes.
come into that? Oh, that's
Well, we
great.
just point all the logs to it, yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, we're looking for something that'll tell us a little bit rather than trying to sift through thousands and thousands of logs and trying to put stuff together, so.
So there's an application called ArcSight
Yes.
that will actually, I worked on a project with General Dynamics, with Robert Half, and with a number of very large Centera hospitals and those type of things, where they pointed all of their logs to the ArcSight application. Then you actually have, it actually creates a dashboard, that dashboard you can then set up filters on it that say, if you see these kind of alerts, bring it through. Now, you might also make sure that you have the correct ports open. Generally, you need port 514 on that, so that kind of thing is important. That's very helpful. Okay, you sir, anything?
Keeping track of what the users are putting out in the cloud.
Auditing.
Yep, auditing, and we're doing risk assessments, and I just did some research across the county, and we went from 150 known applications to 450.
Ooh.
And so There's a lot out there we did not know.
that people were putting out there, and that's the kind of thing, so, and resource utilization is another part of that, so tracking all of that and keeping it, again, we have an app for that, Cloudera, that's not right, I have to get the name of it for you, but there's an app that you could actually see what's, we also have something called Mesosphere, have you ever heard of Mesosphere? It's MESOPHERE. Mesosphere allows you to manage what's going on across multiple data centers. It's a data center management tool. So that's something that you might want to do. How about you? Yes?
Actually, we're in the process of buying new software for our recreation management system, and most of the vendors are gonna be on AWS, so we'll be moving to that, so it's just.
Okay, so what are you doing currently? So you have to take the things.
Currently, we're a self-hosted site, it is, servers we maintain, it's all internal. And a lot of it will not be, the data will not be converted, this is so old.
It's old, okay. But then AWS has AMIs, where the AMIs are like, you know how you have VMDKs for VMware? Within AWS, they're called AMIs, and it's just a little template that allows you to, it's, for example, the ArcSight app I was talking about has an AMI in AWS, so you have to make sure that you find out what your VPC is. Your VPC is your virtual private connection between them and you. Make sure that you have that locked down.
Right. Yeah, we've got some instructions.
Cool, good, those are really important. How about you guys?
Let them talk.
And whomever, one of you guys, I didn't get on.
Well, I think one of our biggest things is gonna be balance between on-premise and what we put in the cloud and how we use it.
What's the criteria?
Right now, we're doing most of our network shares, and anything that's old data, stale data, we're migrating into the cloud, and, just for retention purposes.
Okay,
But we also are looking at maybe putting up some servers to take some resources away from on-prem to give us more access, if we can't get the stuff on-prem, like we plan on putting AWS up there. I mean ADFS, I'm sorry, not AWS, ADFS. Which to me makes sense, because we've had some outages to where
that's what I was gonna say. How about backups? What are you doing with your backups?
we're putting that data out there as well.
Yeah,
But like I said, the thing is balance. How do you know when it's gonna cost too much to do certain things, and
yep,
because we just want to be redundant and resilient, but we know we don't have an unlimited amount of cash. So
and the cache doesn't, it's not like it's a one-time purchase. When you go to AWS, you're looking at long-term.
right,
So the other thing you have to make sure is that the format that you put it up there with, and take a note of this, make sure that the format that you put it up there with, you keep, that you have something that you can read it back with.
right.
That's a real big deal. You guys probably remember years ago, the LTO3 tapes
Right.
from years and years ago. I
We're
worked
still
with,
using them maybe a couple of
exactly.
years ago.
AstraZeneca has a requirement. I worked with AstraZeneca, both here in the US and then over in Basel, Switzerland, and they have a requirement of 50 years. That's how long they have to keep their data. Do you know of anything that you currently can use to read data 50 years old? There isn't. So it's a case of that was something that we had to pay close attention to. So when you're thinking about making those decisions, think about how long do I have to keep this, where do I want to back it up to, and do I need to keep, for example, the federal government still has some of the old tape drives. I'm old. When I was in school, I used to have a ticker tape. Those tapes, I actually used those in school. I worked on the 3570s from IBM years ago, and I did the cards,
Punch cards?
punch cards. I actually took a class for my now ex-husband. He wasn't going to the class, I loved it. I used to go to the class, I used to come home with these things with a coat hanger through them that had tapes. But there are still systems that the federal government has to keep in order to be able to read some of those old things. So those kinds of things. Let us know if we can help you with that, because we have the experience. As you can hear listening to me, I've been doing this stuff for a long time. So you learn to pay attention to different things. So, but that balance that you're talking about, you can do an analysis there. Have you seen up on AWS, they have a calculator, TOI calculator?
We'll do that, yes.
Good, make sure that you use that, because that'll tell you whether or not, it's good to help you figure out how much it's gonna cost you to go there, but then you also have to take that same number, multiply it by the number of years, and how much it would cost to bring it inside, and maybe put it in hyper-converged instead. You know, so you might think about that. How about you, sir, orange shirt? You're with them, oh, y'all, okay, so then your turn. What do you guys have for challenges?
I know, all four of us are
we're all-
together.
Oh, four of you, oh, y'all.
We're from Wilmington, so it's easy, we just walk down the hill.
Yeah, that hill was interesting last night. You haven't
Yes.
seen my, like, I have a broken knee and a broken
Oh,
foot.
no.
It's fine. And how about you?
I think for us, similar to what these guys are saying, trying to figure out where it fits, especially with infrastructure as a service. I mean, we have pretty much everything virtualized,
Oh, great.
but we're trying to figure out if it makes sense to put workloads in the cloud and, like you mentioned earlier, skill sets.
Yeah.
It's like,
Who's gonna send it up there? Who knows the scripts to write to send it up there?
right, and then once it's up there, you know, we have internal skills at VMware. You know, we've been using that for a long time. Is that still gonna be relevant?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it can
most
be
definitely.
integrated into, you know, entire VMware environment.
Yeah, and you can actually set it up, depending on what you're using for your cloud offerings, you can actually set it up in such a way that VMware could burst to AWS. Have you guys seen that? I mean, that's a very cool technology where you have an account, like the one I was talking about that I had 13-20 cents a month going to, right? And all of a sudden I bursted to where I needed to, and then I left it sit there. I didn't touch it at all, and it's up to $17. But that's cheaper than a new server.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for us, the management tools and networking piece of it, I mean, we did just an initial pilot with vCloud Air,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and we got it up and running, but it was really a challenge. It was the disaster recovery piece. That's the other thing, is trying to figure out where disaster recovery fits into it all.
Yeah.
Right now, we have 2 data centers, and we use Site Recovery Manager between the two, and it works really well.
That works great. Yeah.
But there's no geographic diversity.
Yeah. See, it's funny you should say that. Up in Tufts Medical Center, this has been almost 10 years ago now. You start to talk and all of a sudden you feel very old. Tufts Medical Center had one set of converged systems on one floor and one on another in the same building. That was their DR.
We're a little better than that, but we're only like a mile and a half apart, and we're
That's
on the
not-
coast.
that
We're in
doesn't
New
count,
Bern,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not, you know.
It's gotta be 50 miles or more.
Right.
That's the federal
That's the big
requirement.
challenge. We're trying to figure out where does disaster recovery fit in, and then where can we use infrastructure as a service. Is it cost effective? I mean, is our on-prem setup, you know, maybe more cost effective? I don't know.
And, right, or could you maybe put it into this is where you start to think of how many VMs are you talking about? Could you put it into a hyper-converged that would be just your disaster recovery?
Right, yeah, we're
And-
pretty small. I mean, we have roughly 100 VMs.
Oh my God, you could totally do that in a little tiny, like 8U with the switch. You could put that into someplace, and is there data centers that are, seriously, you could put it in a data center that was 100 miles away, 200 miles away. Especially, I mean, I worked on, this is gonna say how really old I am. I built Disney Online. I personally went and picked up the servers from Dulles Airport and built Disney Online in 1996, okay? One of our costs at the time was the T1 line, okay? So looking at the, am I taking over everybody else's time? Am I supposed to be done? Sorry, guys. Alrighty. So, but let me give you guys a card. Make sure that you guys get a card, and as you get moving going forward, send me a message and I'll respond to you. And if there's folks that are down here, there's a number of them that are in this area, we can help you with the security components. We can help you with that DPP. Let me get in touch with you with that. That'll help you save money on your licensing. Let's get that to you, that kind of thing. Did this help? Was this helpful, guys? Probably wasn't as controlled as it should have been, because I'm terrible about following the script. Really, really bad at it. But let me give you cards. So, you know, if there's something in specifically that we can help you with, tell me. If it's just a discovery, we call that discovery, where you just want to talk to somebody and go, Where do I need to go next? Let us help you with that, okay? All right, very, very good. These are some of the other things. All right, thank you so much, yeah, because it's 9:15. I was only supposed to go till 9, wasn't I? I'm really bad. Was it 9:15? Cool, so, oh, good.
Next one
Yeah,
starts at 9:30.
I think it's 9:30, yeah.
Oh, well, we're good then, let's talk. We can still talk. So I want to give y'all cards, so don't laugh at my little. And if I tell you how I did this, you're gonna laugh. I went to Dallas last week for a conference, right? Coming off the plane, you know that little rug that's coming off the plane? My foot caught it, and they had a wheelchair there to pick somebody else up. I went forward, I hit my head, my knee hit the wheelchair, I shattered the bone under my knee and broke my foot in 3 places. So how's that for coordinated?
How'd the wheelchair do?
The wheelchair, yeah. And then they said, oh, well, let me give you a wheelchair to take it. I'm like, oh, no, I'm okay. Oh, I could not walk.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So please do not hesitate to send a message to us. We have a huge organization. I mean, that's one of the other things. We have folks that have been doing this cloud forever. We have folks that know the security side. We have folks that know how to integrate into Oracle. Let us help you. We would love to. Okay? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want one? Cool beans. How are you?
Good, how about yourself?
Good. I know.
It's a job.
It is. There's so many
Feel better.
different
Good. Good.
Y'all, because y'all compete with us.
I like how are you? Yeah, no, I've been presenting professional. I used to teach. I taught Microsoft system.
She's in the women's. Yeah.
I live by in Ashburn. Oh, I love Ashburn. We almost bought a house up there. Thank you so much. It was nice. Thank you. So who do you have next in here? I can just go forward.
Nice shirt.
Oh, that's fine. Big deal. No problem at all. Yes, sir, I'm gonna, yeah, that goes in that bag, and let me take my stuff out of here, and I'll get out of the way, and these things will go next. I just want to get myself off the desktop. It did, I was done. It was terrible.
Yes.
So, can I, help you guys in the, Yep. And then tell me what I'm gonna help you guys do. I know. Yeah, well, no, I actually have my husband is with me, and my granddaughter who is just finished her semester at school, so they're here. But I'm gonna go. I go do stuff during the day, but I'm totally good. I'm already fine here. As you can tell, I'm extremely self-sufficient. Yeah, exactly. My husband carries mine. That's why he came with me. He's like, I don't want you to sell it by yourself.
What's that? In the back. For sure. We're gonna back corner it, Ashley.
Yeah.
Well, I got a whole thing of s'mores. definitely need quick leads, you know, initially, and then. But I am gonna mention along the line, because this one has a lot more. Invite us over to our reps, come up with it, we'll explain more. And so make sure we work out things in there. And we're also gonna talk about, Star Wars. So, when we get invited, you gotta have it in there. Yep. Yeah, I got you. Boring. All right.
I'm more worried about those end versions. For me.
Jason always says good job.
Pond rush this morning.
Yeah, hey, Garrett. I swapped out the presenter, your batteries are dead on your one.
Okay.
I got it for this one, that works.
Okay.
We'll give folks a few more minutes and get started. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, I'm not a huge fan of the microphone deal, so if I can get away with not doing it, that's what I'll do it. All right, good morning. My name's Jason Smith.